Are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO possibly getting out?
We spend trillions of dollars on NATO, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. I don't need Congress for that decision. As you probably know, I can make that decision myself.
President Trump sits down with the Prime Minister of Ireland and they take on the press, and the press attacks both of the leaders. It's actually quite phenomenal. We're going to take a look at it because the way that the leaders handle themselves, the way President Trump handles himself, and the way that the Irish Prime Minister handles it and goes, no, come on, I'm talking here. Be quiet for a second. Is just, mwah, it's perfect. But the most important takeaway from this video is the fact that NATO is kind of a thing of the past. President Trump is not happy with NATO, with the NATO allies, because President Trump and the United States have been supporting so many countries around the world for so long, military action and just subsidizing trade and being in a deficit to help friends out. And now the friends are not helping America out when President Trump says, hey, we could use a hand. I mean, we don't need to, but it'd be nice if some people helped out, and all but a few countries are actually willing to help. In fact, I've got the name of a country. The leader of the country actually confirms earlier today that he's going to help if the United States asks him directly. So sit back, relax, enjoy this video because it's crazy informative and also pretty funny. And this video is sponsored by Spark AI, but more on that later.
What progress have you made, Mr. President, in getting America's allies to assist the U.S. in escorting those oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz?
Well, we don't need too much help, and we don't need any help, actually. In fact, we just put out a notice. I was watching over the last couple of weeks, and all of our NATO allies were very much in favor of what we did. They thought it was very important. We were just discussing it, actually. Very important that we take out the nuclear threat from Iran, and we've done that very strongly, very powerfully. We've wiped out their Navy, wiped out their military in every aspect. Their Air Force is now decimated. They have no Air Force, no Navy. They have no radar. Their radar is entirely gone. Their anti-aircraft machinery is gone. Everything is gone. Their leaders are gone. I guess one of their top person was, they say, a lot of people say their actual top was killed yesterday, along with somebody else. All of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much, we have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. So I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there. The other thing is, and I think, very important, we didn't have to be there for Ukraine. Biden chose to spend hundreds of billions of dollars on Ukraine. And I guess the head of Germany just made a statement that, well, they weren't involved and they have nothing to do with the war. But at the same time, they think we did a great thing by knocking them out. Nobody wants to have Iran, or anybody, but nobody wants to have Iran with a nuclear, because these people are crazy. They're absolutely crazy, and they're vicious, violent. I mean, they kill. Think of it. They killed, now I hear it's about 41,000 people. They put out a notice 2 days ago. Anybody that protests will be immediately shot and killed. That's pretty tough stuff. So everyone agrees with us, but they don't want to help. And we as the United States have to remember that, because we think it's pretty shocking.
So that's not looking very good for NATO. But here's a leader who's saying, you know what? We will help the United States.
So first of all, there must be a clear picture what actually U.S. needs, if they need anything, And as well, I can only talk about, in the name of Estonia, the question is that we're taking responsibilities up in North Europe, where the bordering country for Russia, and Russia is still waging a full-scale war in Ukraine, and also is a direct threat to Europe. So we take full responsibilities there. We're a small nation, but also we have some maybe specific capabilities we will be ready to offer if there is a need for any kind of support to US or to free world countries as a coalition. So let's see what is going to happen, but Estonia is always ready to support our allies.
Let's take a quick break from today's video and talk about today's sponsor, Spark AI. This isn't financial advice, and I'm not a financial advisor. Always make sure that you do your own research. You've probably noticed that defense and AI stocks are exploding again. Companies like Lockheed, Raytheon, they're moving higher as global tensions rise, but sometimes the real opportunity isn't the giant companies. It's the small innovators solving the hardest technical problems. One company that's doing exactly this is Spark AI. Ticker symbols are on the screen and down below in the comments. Spark AI is developing AI navigation and targeting technology that allows drones to operate completely without GPS or remote control. That's a huge deal because in the real world conflicts, GPS can be jammed or disabled. Their defense systems allows drones to identify targets, track movements, and navigate autonomously using onboard spatial awareness. And the technology isn't limited to drones alone. It can be used across land, air, and sea platforms, which opens the door to defense, security, and even commercial application. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Spark AI recently appointed Matt McCran as CEO of its US subsidiary. He's the former CEO of Drone Shield, which is now a multi-billion-dollar defense company. They've also announced a strategic partnership to begin field testing their technology in Ukraine, one of the most demanding real-world defense environments on the entire planet. If you want to learn more about this technology or see the demo, please check out sparkai.co. You can visit the link down below in the description or the pinned comment below. Thank you, Spark AI, for sponsoring today's video.
President Macron has just said in the last hour that he will never join a task force in the Strait of Hormuz until hostilities finish. Yet yesterday you said...
Who said that? Who said?
President Macron of France. What's your reaction to that, sir?
Well, he'll be out of office very soon, so we'll have to see. I don't know.
And then a member of the Irish press asked a question, and it was so ridiculous that the Irish Prime Minister, you can see, says, "What kind of ridiculous question is that, laddie?"
On Doonbeg, you're building an extension to it at the moment, but there's been an objection put in, and it's being held back at the moment due to small snails. What are you disappointed about that?
Planning Commission is
I have not heard that. No.
Planning Commission.
Mr. President.
I mean, the course was built and it's been operated very successfully. Somebody's objecting. Him in an environmental group is objecting to small snails at Doonbeg. I don't know. It doesn't sound like the biggest problem I've ever had.
Are there any repercussions for NATO, and are you still going to China?
Well, yeah. On China, it's a little different story. We're resetting the meeting, and it looks like it'll take place in about 5 weeks. We're working with China. They were fine with it. We're going to say I look forward to seeing President Xi. He looks forward to seeing me, I think. But I do look forward to seeing him. We have a good relationship with China. China actually has become economically for us very good, as you know. It's much different than it was in the past. And we have a very good working relationship with China. So we're making it in about 5 or 6 weeks.
Mr. President. Any repercussions for NATO for not supporting you on this? Any repercussions?
Well, no, I just think that it's not good for a partnership when they say what you're doing is a great thing, but we're not going to help. You know, they say what you did is a great thing, but we're not going to help.
And there it is. NATO allies caught in the act, not ready to support, not wanting to support America after all these years of America propping up and supporting all of these NATO allies. And for that reason, and all of these little tidbit drops that President Trump has been saying, it really feels like NATO is about to be abolished.
In Iran, because the Iranian regime has told Sky News, if you put boots on the ground in Iran, it will be another Vietnam. Are you afraid of that?
No, I'm really not afraid of anything.
Are you rethinking the United States' relationship with NATO possibly getting out?
Well, I'm disappointed in NATO that we spend trillions of dollars on NATO. Think of it, trillions over the years, many trillions of dollars. It's one of the reasons we have deficits and we help other countries. And when they don't help us, I mean, it's certainly something that we should think about. I don't need Congress for that decision, as you probably know. I can make that decision myself. I'd work with some very smart people, and I'd always deal with Congress anyway. But I don't need Congress for that decision. But you know, when you say rethink, I'm not exactly thrilled when we help them with Ukraine. Look, Ukraine would have been over in one day if we didn't help. Frankly, Ukraine would have been over in the first day. They had the best equipment in the world. It was our equipment. Given by sleepy Joe Biden. No charge. No charge.
Iran is just a military operation to you. But do you not have a day after plan? And if so, what is your day after plan for Iran?
Well, we have a lot. Look, if we left right now, it would take 10 years for them to rebuild. But we're not ready to leave yet. But we'll be leaving in the near future. We'll be leaving in pretty much the very near future. But right now, they've been decimated from every standpoint. And again, we've had great support from countries in the Middle East, great support, but we've had no support from, essentially, no support from NATO.
As you can see, it's not looking good for NATO. I mean, in this press conference alone, several times, you've had President Trump allude to the fact that it's not looking good for NATO. He's not happy. And of course, if you're not happy for a very long time, eventually you're going to be wanting to make some changes. And lots of Americans actually support America pulling out of NATO because they feel like NATO is not doing their part. But I want to pass the question off to you right now in the comments. How do you feel about this? Do you think that America should pull out of NATO? Do you think that NATO should be abolished? Let me know what you guys think.
You see that man right there? You know who that is? Churchill. That's the late, great Winston Churchill. And Barack Hussein Obama did not want his bust in this office. Did you know that? And Barack Hussein Obama sent that bus back to England. They didn't want it. And when I came in, I was asked if I wanted it. I said, absolutely, I want it. And I put it right there, Winston Churchill. And, you know, unfortunately, Keir is not Winston Churchill.
Do you have
No, hold it.
Right. Just could I
Hold it. Hold it.
just make a number of points. First of all, I think, notwithstanding what has happened, the transatlantic relationship between Europe and the US is very, very important on a number of fronts. And I think we've had issues over the last year or two, but we settled them. And I think many of these leaders engaged with you, particularly on trade initially. Remember all the fuss last year, but we got a landing zone between Europe and the US, and I think we can get a landing zone again. And I think I just met with Keir Starmer last week. The British-Irish relationship is a very important one. Churchill was a great wartime leader, although in Ireland there was kind of a different perspective in terms of during our own war of independence and so on. He created his own bit of difficulties for us. But that said, he was a great wartime hero. Keir Starmer has done a lot to reset the Irish-British relationship. I just want to put that on the record. But I do believe that he's a very earnest, sound person who I think you have a capacity to get on with. You've got on with him before. And you've got on with other European leaders as well. Sure. And I think you have that capacity again. And I think everyone exists. I mean, you cannot have a rogue state with a nuclear weapon or the capacity for a nuclear weapon. Iran was a sponsor of terrorism. We sanctioned Iran. All European countries did as a and the IRGC in particular as a terrorist organization. They sponsored Hamas. They sponsored Hezbollah. The Houthis. They created mayhem, a most maligned force in the Middle East. The Irish position has always been ultimately, can we resolve this can we get peace? And obviously there's preconditions before you get to that situation. We had our own conflict, which went on for 30 years, and we learned a lot from that in terms of how to try and bring about peace. And I think I've listened to you in terms of, you're correct. I mean, our hearts go to the Iranian people who have been repressed and suppressed for so many years, culminating in that savage murder of thousands and thousands of Iranians some months ago. No one was in a position to do anything about that. I think, and likewise with Ukraine, I mean, the Russians did invade Ukraine, have attacked civilian infrastructure and so on like that. And for the people of Ukraine who just want peace and an opportunity to live, I think we have to continue to work to see can we bring peace different regime to Iran, where Iranians can live in peace again, and the people in the Middle East can live in peace. And you're doing your bit there in terms of the work in Gaza and so on like that. And I think that's what we want, is a peaceful resolution of conflict. That's where we come from as a small nation.
Right.
We've been peacekeepers all our lives. And we're the longest serving nation in terms of provision of peacekeeping forces in the world, as it turns out. But we think ultimately all conflicts come to an end, and I think we have to try and work towards that end. And I'm sure European leaders and the US administration will engage, and hopefully we can get a landing zone somewhere.
I mean, the only thing, and I agree with everything you said, but we helped with Ukraine.
Yes. Yeah.
And they don't help with Iran. And they all acknowledge that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. You yourself say, you know, these are horrendous people. These are the worst people, and going back to Hitler, right? Going back to Hitler, these are the worst people. That's a long time ago. And there's been nothing close. Every problem, so many deaths, 90% of the people that got blown up by landmines, they loved them. You know, Soleimani, we killed him. If we didn't, it might be a different story, because he was a horrible person, but he was a very powerful person and leader, smart. But we killed him. If we didn't, I think you'd have it. I did. But I think it would have maybe a different situation. It wouldn't have been so easy as it has been, because it has been very easy. You know, it's all of their military is out, but you can always have somebody drop a mine in the water. It's like terrorism.
Yep.
And then you have the people that own the billion-dollar ship saying, well, let's not move that ship yet because we want. So we thought that Europe would help that, because they do have some minesweepers. But it's amazing that, you know, they all said, what a great job. They would call me congratulating us on the great job we did with respect to Iran, and we knocked the hell out of them. They're no longer the bully of the Middle East. They were known as the bully of the Middle East, and they're not the bully anymore. But you would have thought they would have said, we'd love to send a couple of minesweepers. It's not a big deal. It doesn't cost very much money. But they didn't do that. So, you know, I think it's very unfair to the United States. Not to me, but to the United States.
So there you have it. There is the video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Personally, one of my favorite parts is when President Trump at the very end is talking about Winston Churchill, and he mentions Barack Hussein Obama. If you haven't been paying attention, or maybe just this detail slipped over your head or something, every single time President Trump talks about Obama, he says Barack Hussein Obama. What does that mean? I don't know, but I'm going to ask you, what was your favorite part of this video? Again, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in another video. Bye for now.